So think about the best career move you've made in, I don't know, the last 5 years.
Hmm.
Maybe it was like taking a lateral role that taught you a totally new skill, or speaking up in a high-stakes meeting, or even just leaving a really comfortable job for something totally unproven.
Right, something risky.
Exactly. Now ask yourself, if an algorithm had reviewed that decision before you made it, would it have actually told you to do it?
I mean, probably
Right.
not.
It likely would have flagged the risk, pointed out the lack of direct experience, and just suggested you stay put. And that's kind of what we're looking at today is this really fascinating tension. Because look, for weeks you've probably been using AI to do your employer's heavy lifting, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone is.
You're drafting project proposals, you're synthesizing quarterly data, building out workflows. You know how to use these tools to make your organization run smoother. For today's deep dive, we are taking those exact same tools and turning the lens inward.
Yeah, which is a huge shift.
It is. We're looking at a strategy called Level Up. And the whole mission here is, what happens when you treat your own career as the project worth investing your AI time in?
It's such a great framing, and it's a transition that requires a complete, fundamental shift in how you understand these systems. Because professionals, especially in really complex fields like healthcare administration or corporate strategy, they're conditioned to view AI purely as an execution engine for tasks.
Right, like a superpowered calculator.
Exactly. Just do this thing for me. But when you apply it to your career, you're not just executing tasks, you're engaging in this highly iterative process of self-presentation.
Hmm.
Career development, whether that means crafting documents or preparing for interviews, has the exact same structural features that make professional communication such a strong AI use case.
Yeah.
But the stakes are, incredibly personal.
Well, wait, I want to stop you right there because I think a lot of people hear structural features and they instantly picture like coding or database management. What exactly are the structural features of career development?
Yeah, that's fair. It really comes down to two things: architecture and iteration. So think about the architecture of a resume. It's not a novel.
Right.
It's a highly structured, very rigid document. Cover letters follow a predictable, persuasive arc. Even the answers you give in a behavioral interview, they fit into recognizable frameworks.
Like the STAR method, right?
Yeah.
Situation, task, action, result.
Exactly. And large language models are trained on massive internet-scale volumes of this exact kind of text. So they understand the latent underlying patterns of career communication intimately. And then the second feature is iteration.
Which is where it gets tedious for a normal person.
So tedious. Because the difference between a passable resume and an exceptional one isn't usually just raw writing talent, it's the 12th revision. The difference between a fumbled interview answer and a really sharp, authoritative one is rehearsal.
Okay, let's unpack this, because rehearsal takes patience, which is the one thing human mentors rarely have in abundance. I mean, working adults don't have a dedicated career coach on retainer.
No, definitely not.
You can't just ask your former boss to sit down and review like 14 drafts of a single bullet point. Or, run mock interviews with you at midnight on a Tuesday.
They would block your number.
They really would.
Mm.
But an AI is essentially, it's like a tireless 24-hour gym spotter for your career. It never rolls its eyes at you. It's infinitely patient, and it's willing to run scenarios as many times as you want.
Precisely. It fills a massive access gap. But to get that benefit, you have to fundamentally change your methodology. If career success relies on patterns, well, the most foundational pattern is the resume. So to deploy this spotter effectively, you cannot just open a standard chat window, paste your resume, and ask the AI to just fix it.
Right, because if I just say, make this sound professional, I'm going to get a document that sounds like it was written by a Victorian bureaucrat.
Exactly. It will be technically perfect and completely devoid of human personality. So to actually hack the resume process, you have to use a dedicated AI project workspace. This is a feature that exists in Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on. You're not just having a one-off chat. You are building a persistent, highly contextualized environment. You load your current resume in as a foundational source document. Then you upload the specific job postings you're actually targeting.
You have to provide the
You
target.
have to provide the target.
But wait, if I'm uploading my past performance reviews or detailed notes about what I accomplished in my current role, aren't I just feeding my employer's internal proprietary metrics? into a public AI model? Like, is that actually safe?
Oh, I am really glad you brought that up because that is a critical failure point. You must sanitize your data before you upload anything.
Right.
You never feed raw company data, proprietary project names, or sensitive financial metrics into a public LLM. So instead of saying, led Project Delta to acquire competitor X for 20 million, you abstract it.
Okay, how do you do that?
You say something like, led a cross-functional team in a mid-market acquisition resulting in a double-digit revenue increase.
Got it. So you're loading in your actions and the scale of the impact, not the company's intellectual property.
Exactly. And once you've sanitized the data and loaded it into the workspace, you provide the prompt.
And I imagine the prompt has to be forensic.
Highly forensic. You need to name the target role, point out the specific aspects of the job posting you want to highlight, and explicitly constrain the AI. So you tell it, rewrite the third bullet under my current role to better reflect the quality improvement responsibilities in the attached job description.
Oh, wow.
And then you say, use only the experiences detailed in my attached performance review. Do not invent new responsibilities.
Okay, let's look at the mechanics of why that works. Because when you constrain the AI like that, what is it actually doing under the hood? The source material mentions 3 specific superpowers the AI has in this workspace, and the first one is translating tasks into outcomes.
Yeah, and this is where most professionals really struggle. We tend to write our resumes like job descriptions. We just list what we do on a daily basis, our tasks. But AI excels at identifying the structural difference between a task and a business outcome. For example, your original resume might say, manage scheduling for the nursing department.
Which is completely passive. It just tells the reader you sat in a chair and did a schedule.
Right. It doesn't tell them if you were good at it.
Yeah.
But the AI, looking at your performance review data, can restructure that into something like restructured scheduling protocols for a 50-person nursing department, reducing overtime costs by 12%, and resolving 3 recurring weekend staffing gaps.
But the AI doesn't know the 12% figure, right?
No, exactly. You have to provide that data in your raw notes. But the AI understands the causal link. It knows how to structure the sentence, so the business impact is the focal point, not the administrative task.
That makes total sense. And the second superpower is keyword alignment, which gets into the dreaded applicant tracking systems, or ATS. People always say you need keywords to beat the algorithm, but how does the AI actually help with that beyond just, awkwardly stuffing words into a paragraph?
Well, to understand how AI helps here, you really have to understand how modern applicant tracking systems actually work. They aren't just doing a simple Control F for exact word matches anymore.
Oh, they aren't.
No, they use semantic matching. They plot the text of your resume and the text of the job description in this high-dimensional space to see how closely the concepts relate.
It's like the ATS is a bouncer at an exclusive club, and it speaks a highly specific, constantly evolving dialect. And if you don't speak the dialect, you don't get in, even if you are totally qualified.
That is a perfect way to look at it. And the AI is your real-time translator. Because large language models have mapped the relationships between billions of words, they understand the latent space of these professional terms. It can look at a job description, identify the semantic clusters the ATS will likely weigh heaviest, and then seamlessly integrate those concepts into your bullet points.
So it sounds natural to a human reader, but scores perfectly with the screening algorithm.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the third superpower, which is tone calibration. And I know it's incredibly difficult to judge your own tone because you're just too close to the material. Like, if I am trying to move from a mid-level management role into an executive director role, my language needs to shift from operational to strategic.
Right, and AI can provide that objective distance. It adjusts the vibe, basically, so you read at an executive level. Or consider the scale of the culture. If you're applying to a small, close-knit community hospital after spending a decade at a massive, highly bureaucratic health system,
your resume might read as way too corporate or rigid.
Exactly. The AI can recalibrate the language to emphasize collaboration, cross-functional teamwork, and community impact, which helps you land with the right cultural tone.
But wait, isn't there a danger here? If the AI is constantly translating, calibrating, and outcome optimizing my writing, doesn't the resume stop sounding like me? Like, if my resume is perfectly calibrated by a machine, what happens when I actually show up to the interview and I just sound like a regular person?
That dissonance is exactly why a perfectly AI-generated resume actually creates a new massive problem for you. The resume sets a trap.
A trap.
Yes. You've presented yourself on paper as this hyper-articulate, flawlessly structured executive. If you walk into the room and stumble, or if your spoken tone doesn't match the sophistication of the document, the hiring manager immediately senses a disconnect.
The illusion breaks.
Instantly. And this is why relying on AI for resume drafting requires intense vigilance regarding 3 specific red flags. The first is overstatement. AI's default mode is amplification. Left unchecked, it will enthusiastically describe a routine, daily responsibility as a major strategic initiative.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah. If you were a secondary contributor on a project, the AI might rewrite the bullet point to sound like you were the sole visionary leader.
And that is lethal in an interview, because the hiring manager is going to look at that bullet point and say, oh, tell me about your visionary strategy here, and you will literally have nothing to say.
Exactly. Every single line on that final document has to be something you can defend with specific granular details. Now, the second red flag is outright invention or hallucinations.
Right.
Generative AI is fundamentally a prediction engine, right? It's guessing the next most likely word in a sequence. So if there's a gap in your experience, it might predict a certification or a software proficiency that sounds completely plausible for someone in your field and simply insert it.
So it isn't trying to lie, it's just trying to complete the pattern.
Exactly. You are the verifier. Every single word must be factually true.
Okay, and the third red flag goes back to that loss of voice. How do you actually audit for that? Because reading it on a screen, it's really easy to just think, wow, this sounds incredibly professional.
The audit process has to be physical. You cannot just skim it on your monitor. You need to print the document out, sit in a quiet room, and literally read it out loud. Read every single bullet point.
That sounds intense.
It is. But if your tongue trips over a convoluted corporate phrase, or if you feel embarrassed saying a sentence out loud because it sounds so unlike your natural speaking rhythm, you have to hit delete. You must inject your original human phrasing back into the text. The AI is just the first pass. The final product has to be you.
Okay, so let's say we've navigated those red flags. We have a resume that is factually accurate, outcome-driven, and genuinely sounds like us. We get the interview. But as we just established, that perfect resume has now set incredibly high expectations for our spoken fluency.
Which forces a logical pivot. The document's job is done. Now you have to speak. You have to use the AI to practice speaking at that same elevated level.
So I just open my AI app, paste my new resume, and type, interview me.
I mean, if you want a terrible generic interview that wastes your time, yes. A prompt like that will get you basic questions like, what is your greatest weakness?
Ugh, the worst question.
Right. To actually build spoken fluency, you have to control the parameters of the simulation. You go back into your project workspace, you remind the AI of the specific job description and your resume, then you explicitly cast the AI in a role.
You give it a persona.
Yes, you might prompt it. Act as the vice president of operations for this hospital. Conduct a behavioral interview for this director role. Ask me one question at a time. Wait for my response.
Okay.
After I respond, critically evaluate my answer based on clarity, strategic thinking, and alignment with the job description, and then ask the next question. Maintain a highly skeptical, pressure-tested tone.
A highly skeptical tone. So you're intentionally making it difficult. Here's where it gets really interesting, because it's like a batting cage for professional conversations. We all know we should rehearse for interviews, but we usually don't.
Because the social friction is too high.
Right. Asking a mentor to grill you for an hour feels like a massive imposition. And stumbling over your words in front of a colleague or a friend is just embarrassing.
But with the AI, there is zero social friction. You can practice at 2 in the morning, in your living room, in sweatpants, and fail spectacularly without anyone ever knowing.
And that lack of friction is what enables true, rapid iteration.
Exactly. Let's say the AI asks you about a time you managed a complex budget shortfall. In your first attempt, you give this sprawling, rambling 2-minute answer. The AI replies, pointing out that you totally buried the actual result. So you don't just move on to the next question. You type, okay, force me to answer that exact same question again, but I only have 30 seconds. Evaluate me on conciseness.
That is fascinating. You get to see in real time how the reception of your answer changes when you alter the framing. Like, you could try leading with a hard metric, and then try a version where you lead with a story about team morale and see which one the AI scores higher based on the job description.
Exactly. After 5 or 6 rounds in this batting cage, it becomes blindingly obvious where your structural weaknesses are. You realize you always stumble when asked about conflict resolution, so you drill that specific scenario until the answer is clean and confident. And, this methodology isn't limited to job interviews.
Right, because if it works for an interview, it works for any high-stakes professional conversation. You could use it to script out a negotiation email when an offer actually comes through. Or if you aren't leaving your company, you could use it to prepare for a performance review. You could pitch your request for a raise and command the AI to generate the 3 most likely counterarguments your specific manager might use to deny the request.
It acts as a tireless thinking partner. It forces you to articulate your value proposition out loud before it really counts. But just as we saw with the resume drafting, using AI as a career coach comes with significant, potentially dangerous blind spots that you absolutely have to understand.
Which leads me to a big question. So, if the AI is this sophisticated, if it can map the semantic latent space of a job description and simulate a skeptical vice president and identify the weaknesses in my budget answers, can I just outsource my career choices to it entirely? Like, can I give it 2 job offers and say, algorithm, tell me which one to take?
You absolutely cannot. And the reason comes down to the fundamental difference between data processing and human judgment. AI possesses zero judgment, and that lack of judgment manifests in 3 distinct blind spots. So the first is a total lack of context.
Meaning, like, the unwritten rules of the organization,
Yeah.
the office politics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The AI only knows the text you explicitly feed it. It does not know that the department you're applying to has had 3 different directors in the last 18 months, which indicates a toxic culture. It doesn't know that the hiring manager has a reputation for micromanaging. It cannot comprehend the subtle political currents that dictate what is actually a smart career move. A job offer might look flawlessly logical on paper. The salary is higher, the title is better, and the AI will enthusiastically tell you to take it. But in reality, it could be a terrible move for reasons that just cannot be captured in a prompt.
It's completely blind to the human variables.
Yep.
Okay, what is the second blind spot?
Validation bias. This is a crucial concept. The architecture of these models, like ChatGPT or Claude, is refined using a process called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF.
Wait, how does that actually impact the advice it gives me?
Well, because of RLHF, the models are fundamentally incentivized to be helpful, agreeable, and to provide comprehensive answers. They have a structural bias toward pleasing the user.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so if you ask an AI, should I apply for this stretch role? It will almost inevitably generate a bulleted list of reasons why you are a great fit and encourage you to go for it. If you ask if you should accept an offer, it will mirror your own tone and find reasons to support the direction you already seem to be leaning.
So it's not actually challenging my premises. It is structurally designed to validate what I already want to hear.
Precisely. It is not delivering hard truths, it is delivering an agreeable synthesis. The practical implication is that you use AI to explore variables and pressure test logic, but you never, ever let it make the final determination. You must own the decision.
And the third blind spot brings us back to the simulation itself, right? The AI can simulate the questions, but it cannot simulate the physical reality of the room. It cannot replicate the room energy.
It really cannot. When you're typing back and forth or even using a voice interface alone in your home, you're comfortable. The AI cannot simulate the sudden cold spike of adrenaline when you walk into a boardroom and face a panel of 5 unsmiling executives.
God, that feeling.
Right. It cannot replicate the awkward silence when a joke lands flat, or the micro-expressions of a hiring manager shifting in their seat because you've been talking for way too long.
It builds the intellectual fluency of your answers, but it doesn't build your live performance endurance. You still need human interaction to read a room.
Absolutely. So when we pull all of this together, the resume hacking, the mock interviews, the structural blind spots, we start to see the fundamental difference between using AI for your employer's work versus using it for yourself.
So what does this all mean? Let's synthesize that. What is the fundamental difference between using AI for your employer versus using it for yourself?
There are 3 core differences. The first is the total absence of a reviewer. When you draft a strategic memo at work, the organization provides a safety net. Your manager reads it or legal reviews it. If your logic is flawed, someone catches it before it goes out. But when you use AI to revise your career documents, you are the sole quality control.
That's scary.
It is. The check only comes at the moment of application. And the consequence of missing an AI hallucination is simply that you don't get the interview. You never even find out why.
It's an incredibly solitary posture.
Yeah.
which leads directly into the second difference. The stakes are intimately personal. I mean, if you write a bad memo at work, it's embarrassing, but it's a recoverable problem. You apologize, you revise it. But an overstated resume that gets exposed in a live interview,
Oh, that's bad.
or a mock interview process where the AI validated a terrible habit that you then performed in front of a hiring panel, those mistakes can permanently alter the trajectory of your career.
And the third most profound difference is the subject matter itself. When you use AI on a corporate project, you are generating output about external data, a supply chain, a budget, a marketing strategy. But when you use AI for your career, you are generating output about you. You are both the user and the product.
Which is exactly why the physical out-loud audit is so vital. At every stage of this process, you are the final arbiter of authenticity.
What's fascinating here is that the ultimate takeaway never changes. You now have access to a sophisticated drafting partner that understands semantic ATS matching. You have an infinitely patient practice partner that can simulate behavioral interviews. But despite all this incredible processing power, the fundamental ownership principle of your career remains entirely human.
Right.
The bullet points must be factually yours. The spoken answers must be authentically yours. And the final decisions must incorporate the messy, political, human context that algorithms just cannot see. The AI provides the framework, you provide the reality.
It is a massive advantage, but it demands an entirely new level of vigilance. And that leaves us with one final, slightly uncomfortable thought to chew on as you go about your day. If we increasingly rely on AI to perfectly calibrate our tone, to polish our resumes, and to script our high-stakes negotiations, do we risk slowly changing who we actually are to match what an algorithm thinks a perfect professional sounds like? When the algorithm is constantly correcting you, where's the AI and where do you begin? Think about it.